The reports talk about a number of mega corrupt officials who are claiming that Russian strikes on these facilities means that war writes everything off. But this corruption and money laundering in the army is something that Ukrainian servicemen are always complaining about, and it's increasingly difficult for the authorities to be quiet about this. It's clear that many defense companies who on paper have received millions of dollars don't actually exist in actual fact. The former Labour Minister of Poland, Piotr Kulpa, in an interview admitted that about 30 to 50% of Western assistance to Ukraine has been plundered right from the beginning and consistently. From these resources, according to him, really equated to the annual budget of Ukraine. And quite clearly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Can you imagine what scale of theft that we're talking about, sanctioned and backed from the very top? It is not surprising that Ukrainian authorities are not taking any steps to conduct any audit whatsoever. And the only way of doing this is to provoke an escalation whereby all of these other things seem to be trifling in comparison. And the outgoing American administration is actively egging it on in doing this, and it's trying as much as it can to make a mess, both in Russia and with the new team in the White House. There's nothing surprising here. It takes two to tango, so to speak, in international corruption, and therefore the Biden team most likely really doesn't want to engage in financial checks. Therefore, that is the reason for all this fear-mongering regarding North Korean troops, just like it was previously with Iranian missiles. It's interesting what the West is going to come up with next. Maybe there's going to be Martians or little green aliens. It doesn't really matter. The main thing is to make an accusation. Distinguished colleagues, it's possible that these maneuvers of the Ukrainian corruptioneers and their Western conspirators might have gone unnoticed if, trying to destroy their tracks, they had not challenged peace throughout the whole world and had not, irrespective of what country you live in, placed the world on the brink of a global nuclear conflict. This is precisely what happened after the Biden administration and right after many of its European satellites authorized the Ukrainian army to use long-range missiles far inside Russia. And Zelensky has engaged in this. We saw this because we've had 2 rounds of such strikes. On the 19th of November, 6 ATACMS missile attacks that were made in the US were used, and on the 21st of November, there was a combined missile attack with a Storm Shadow made in the UK and a HIMARS in the US. They struck military targets in Bryansk and Kursk. They did not achieve their targets thanks to our anti-missile defense. However, as we've repeatedly underscored, the West, from that moment, provoked a regional conflict in Ukraine that has now taken on a global nature. In response to the use of American and UK long-range weapons on the 21st of November, the Russian armed forces conducted a combined strike on a military-industrial complex in Ukraine. For the first time, a new IRBM Russian missile system was used with non-nuclear hypersonic equipment. The effectiveness of such weaponry that has no analogy is something that that Western specialists assisting Ukraine can tell you about. However, the Zelensky regime did not take on board our warning and decided once again to test our resolve. Yesterday, on the 25th of November, the Russian Defense Ministry said that over the past 3 days, the Ukrainian army struck using Western missiles Kursk region and used 12 ATACMS missiles, and most of them exploded. However, there was not any major casualties. What else can we say? Well, let's just wait and see. every wave of escalation from the West is going to be decisively responded to. I will be frank. We believe that it is our right to use our weapons against military facilities of those countries who allow the use of weapons against our facilities.
Okay, bye-bye.
So we're talking about the hypersonic weaponry today. There is the American anti-missile defense system in Europe. They cannot... So is that your deliberate decision? Well, then it is completely shocking. Distinguished colleagues, in our opinion, this deliberate escalation from the US and its allies is something that we should be discussing today in the Security Council, because the global conflict that they are likely to provoke with today's weaponry is not going to spare anyone. The representative of the Kiev regime, of course, is not going to say anything about this, because all Ukrainian diplomacy wants to do right now is save the skin of Zelensky and its clique. And even if that means plunging the whole world into war, we would urge each and every one of you to think about this and not to make the mistake and to choose your priorities very carefully. Thank you very much indeed.